This is an 8-iron, and it's a dead shank.
Wow.
Way right.
Oh, takes a hop off the paddle.
You got to be kidding me. Very tough pitch shot right here. You got to hit it into the hill, one hop up and bite, and it's in.
Kind of like that.
Hey everyone, it's Jason from the Sub 70 podcast, and the golf season is not that far away. For all of your golfing needs, we hope you visit www.golfsub70.com. We have forged irons, game improvement irons, drivers, hybrids, wedges, all milled putters, the best of the best, and at factory direct prices, and everything is handcrafted and built in Sycamore, Illinois, and sent out directly to you. So for all of your golfing needs, please check out Sub 70 Golf. Thanks, and I hope you enjoy the podcast with Calc. Well, I would like to welcome back to the Sub 70 podcast our very first guest we ever had on, 13-time PGA Tour winner and also the winner of 4 Champions Tour events, Mark Calcavecchia. Mark, thanks for coming back to the podcast. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure, Jason. Thanks for having me.
So how's the off-season going? How's the body feeling? Are you getting the practice in that you sort of need to do to be ready for the 2019 season?
It's been a fun off season. I didn't play any golf in November, like none. I took 43 days off entirely from the game, and then kind of played off and on in December. And the last month or so, I've been trying to do some exercise, kind of like last year, and been doing some practicing. So I feel pretty good physically. Kind of excited to get ready to go to Hawaii next week. So the game feels pretty good. Felt like my short game was a little bit shaky, so I've been doing some work on that. So getting excited to get cranked back up for the start of the season next week.
Do you go back and look at your stats? Do you use those as sort of metrics of where you need to potentially improve on, where is really solid? You know, how much in the details of the numbers do you get into when you're sort of assessing how your season went? I'm not as technical as a lot of guys, but I do kind of go back and think kind of where I screwed up last year. I did kind of have an unfortunate thing happen. I broke my big toe after Sunday night after Houston, and that slowed me down for a couple of months. So that was a little bit unfortunate because I was really starting to play well with a couple of top tens at Branson and Houston, and then it happened right before 2 majors. So that was kind of unlucky. And I was kind of inconsistent. I had stretches where I putted good and stretches where I putted awful, and then my short game was good, and then it was bad, and then, and I think that comes a little bit with age. So I thought I need to, put more time in on my short game. My bunker game wasn't as good as I'd liked it to be, so I think I was like 47th in sand saves, and I should be better than that out of the sand. And I think a little of that comes with putting too. If you blast out 8-10 feet or 6 feet or whatever, you got to make those, and you're not going to make all of them. But so I need to be a little bit better consistently chipping, putting, and short game. So I did look at that up and downs, that sort of thing. So I'm going to put some more work on that this year, and hopefully improve in that area. Any equipment changes for 2019 season? Anything new in the bag? And if so, what changes are you making?
No, nothing really, which is unusual for me. I've got a new Epic Flash driver, which isn't anything earth-shattering. It's very similar to the old Epic or the Rug, the Callaway driver. I guess Xander Schauffele used one last week to win at Kapalua. And it's a great driver, but the Rug was a great driver. The old Epic was a great driver. And I still got my ping driver that I love. So, and other than that, I'm using same irons as last year, same wedges. So nothing different. I didn't love the new Titleist ball, so I'm going to stick with the ball I used last year. So pretty much everything's the same in that regard.
I've talked to some other guys on this, and I guess this is more for the Champions Tour. Are the club contracts changing to the point where if you do sign a deal, they want all 14 clubs, the ball, the whole 9 yards? And is there sort of a dividing line in the sand where it's just not worth it, where you would rather have the equipment, you would rather that you're totally comfortable playing from all 14 clubs and the ball that you want versus, signing with one company that would make you play everything?
Well, on our tour, there really isn't such thing as a club contract. That's a PGA Tour thing and a top 50 player in the world type thing. There's no, there's 3 or 4 guys with ping still on our tour, but it's not like they're getting paid a whole lot of money. Quite honestly, they've got to play 12 clubs, I think, including a driver and a putter. So, I left Ping at the end of 2016, and at that point in my career when I was 56, I thought, well, maybe I might want to explore what else is out there. After playing Ping for 32 years, maybe it's time to hit another driver and try some other irons and try some other putters and stuff. Just because I was kind of getting on in my career and it'd be kind of fun to do. But the younger guys, when they sign a club contract, I doubt it's for all 14 clubs. It might be for 12. I think 12 seems like a number, but a lot of them, they do want you to play their driver, and they do, if they make putters, they want you to use their putter because those are the 2 most visible clubs, and their irons, of course. A lot of them don't care about fairway woods because, almost nobody can tell what fairway woods you're using. So I think that's kind of the standard of a club contract.
Yeah, and it's definitely just seems it's changed. Like I said, even on the PGA Tour, where once Nike kind of got out of it, the guys say, like you said, 50th on the money list on down. You're seeing a lot of those guys just playing what they want to because the money's just not worth it versus not having the exact clubs that you want. It's sort of interesting over the last, say, 5 years how it even has changed on the PGA Tour. So it's an interesting topic. Yep. Last year we talked about what a victory would mean for you in the 2018 season after coming off back surgery and what that means to win again. And you did that this year at the Boca Raton Championship. It had been since 2015 since you last won. How satisfying was that to get back at the top again and have a victory, and especially doing it over, Bernhard Langer, going down that stretch and going against the best that's out there?
Oh, it did mean a lot, especially, right down the road from home. It was a tournament that I had in the grasp of my hands way back in 2011 that I let slip. I played well there in the past, so to have a good chance to win it again and finally get it done there, felt great. Especially winning early in the year, it kind of sets up your whole year. And like I said, unfortunately, I had the toe incident that slowed me down for a few months, and some other inconsistencies that kind of set in, which again, I think for most people at my age kind of can set in with my back problems and whatnot. But it was a lot of fun, and it felt great, and does give me faith, only being a year older, that I can still do it again. And looking forward to that tournament here again in 3 weeks. So I'll be totally psyched to defend that tournament in 3 weeks.
That back nine was pretty crazy. I was watching it, of the back and forth, and then some great shots, and then Langer sort of, didn't play his best on the last couple of holes, which was interesting. You took advantage of it. That was a crazy back nine. You made some clutch putts when you needed it, and have you ever seen a tournament kind of finish like that, of some great play and then some shaky play, then some great play, all within like a 9-hole period?
Yeah, it was a crazy back nine, and the way the wind was blowing, I knew the last 18's a pretty easy hole, but I knew the whole enchilada was going to come down to 14, 15, 16, and 17, which were pretty much straight back into the wind. And that's pretty much what happened. And I knew if I could just par those holes, I was gonna be in good shape, and I would have been, but that wasn't the case. And then, and I didn't know this at the time, but Bernhard over the years has had a very difficult time with the 17th hole, especially the green. I guess he's missed a lot of 5 and 6, 7-foot putts on that green over the years for whatever reason. He just isn't very comfortable on that green, and he hit a great drive and hit a bad iron shot for him, and a average bunker shot to about 6 feet, and then just a terrible putt. And it was it was surprising to me. And then he got kind of unlucky in his drive on 18, and I hit a good one, and then he kind of hit a bad shot, and it was unusual for Bernhard to do that because he rarely does that. But it was I was a lucky recipient of that, and I'll certainly take it.
The road trip this summer. I was following this on Twitter, so I have to ask you about it. So for the listeners, you played in the Dominion Energy Charity Classic in Virginia, and then you cross-countryed in the RV out to Southern California at the Invesco Championship. So if I got this right, you and Brenda essentially drove across the entire United States. How many miles was that? How long did it take? And then, man, there's got to be some interesting stories of RVing it across from one golf tournament to the next to make the next start. I don't think I've ever seen, I follow quite a few guys on Twitter. I don't think I've seen anybody road trip it that far from one tournament to the other. So how did that come about, and what was that adventure like?
Well, it was certainly an adventure, and the whole idea of the plan was to, play good in Virginia and at Sherwood, and then obviously make the Schwab Cup Finals at Phoenix. And we had the week off in between, so we thought we'd just make a nice little 6-week trip out of it. With the whole issue being driving from Richmond, Virginia to LA in 2.5 days to get there in time for the Thursday Pro-Am. But sure enough, I did it, and Brenda doesn't drive the thing, so I had to drive the whole way, and it was about 2,400 miles. And we got there. We left Sunday night after play in Richmond. Drove about 250 miles that night, and about 900 the next day, and about 800 the next day, and about 500, 600 the next day, and got there, pulled in to the Malibu Beach RV Park at about 3 o'clock on Wednesday, and made my Pro-Am time the next morning, no problem. Actually, I didn't feel too bad and played pretty good in the Pro-Am, but didn't play very good in the tournament and didn't putt very good. And sure enough, as it turns out, I missed the Schwab Cup Finals by what amounted to one shot better somewhere along the line, $6,000. So, I mean, if I'd have finished a couple shots better in Richmond, would have done the trick. But that was frustrating. So we drove to Palm Springs to an amazing RV park there for a couple of days, the Motor Coach Country Club, and saw some friends there, and then spent a week in Phoenix anyway, and hung out with some friends there and saw my kids, and had a good week there. And then and just took our time and drove back to Jupiter, Florida. So, yeah, it was about almost a 6,000-mile road trip for a couple of golf tournaments. But the good news is I like to drive, and we like our motorhome. So
I was going to say, you got to see the country, right?
That trip won't be made again. That was a one-time deal.
Yeah. Next time the NetJets flight's probably going to be picking you up in Virginia and hire somebody else to drive the thing back to Florida, right? It's a simple way of doing it. Or
we'll just we'll hop on Delta. That'll be the next best plan.
How did you come about of making the decision that it makes the most sense to RV it to every event? Because I'm assuming for years you used to fly from event to event, and how many other guys are sort of doing, I know Daly has an RV, does it full time. Is there quite a few guys out there who do it in the method that you do it in for the traveling?
Not too many guys on our tour. Two of our tour officials do, and Tim Petrovic has a Prevost as well, and he's had one for quite a few years. There's several guys on the PGA Tour that do it, but a lot of them don't drive. They fly in private. They have drivers that drive their bus in, get it set up. Then they fly in private, stay in their bus, and then they fly back out private, have the driver drive the bus to the next stop, that sort of deal. But, to me, that kind of ruins the experience of RVing and camping, or as we call it, glamping. But it kind of all started about 10 years ago. My wife, Brenda, is not a good flyer, never has been, hates flying, and she would much rather drive anywhere than fly. So we rented a bus for a month, and we pretty much knew the first week that we rented it that we liked it, and then that I liked driving it. And sure enough, a couple weeks later, we bought our first bus, and from that point on, we were hooked. matter of factly, I'm just about to make a bunch of RV park reservations for the summer. We're going to be in it from the 1st of April all the way through July. So it'll be a nice 4-month trip this summer in the bus. So we're looking forward to it.
And it makes sense. It's some, a home away from home, right? It's comfortable. You can do it on your schedule. I can see where it makes sense to do it that way, and it's kind of a cool way to road trip around the United States. So I think it's a very cool way of going from event to event. I'd be up for it.
It is home on wheels. You've got everything in there. I mean, you've got plenty of TV options, Apple TV, Netflix, the whole deal. Everything in the world you can think of, and you don't have to pack and unpack, and you just hop in and go and stop when you're tired. And I always have plenty of time to get where I'm going, so it's not a problem.
And I'm assuming the technology, I know you got a newer one this year. I mean, it has to keep getting better and better, where it's more comfortable and more comfortable as each one you sort of upgrade to. It's got to make that better and better as well, I'm assuming.
It's very comfortable to drive. It is. It's hard to describe, but it's very stress-free. And luckily, over the years, I've learned how to fix a decent amount of the problems that occur. And when there's something that I can't fix, and luckily, knock on wood, in 10 years, I've only had one engine problem. And that happened to be in Nashville, where there's a Prevost dealership, and they fixed it in 6 hours. So we sat there for 6 hours with the dogs in the waiting room, and then off we went. And I mean, these engines they build and these things are designed to go 1 million+ miles. So they run fantastic. And the rest of the little issues you have, if you can't fix them, like an awning might not go out or something. Not a big deal. You write it down on your bus fix list, and then when you get home from the trip, you bring it in and they fix it. So little stuff like that. A lot of stuff I can fix, fuses and things like that. And or I call up and say, okay, what happened to the, water heater or something? Why isn't my shower hot? And they tell me how to fix it, and I fix it. So stuff like that. It's kind of fun to fix, and it's fun to keep the thing clean and scrub the love bugs off the front window and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of maintenance involved in it, but it's fun to do.
Well, speaking of traveling, there's an event this year that started in Sioux Falls, South Dakota at the Sanford International. And wondering, because you're from that area where you grew up in Laurel, Nebraska, how much did you like getting back to that area to play, and what kind of fan support did you sort of get there where you're not too far from where you grew up?
Oh, it was great. It was, 90 miles straight north of where I grew up. The weather was a little iffy. It rained about 8 inches, I think, Tuesday and Wednesday of tournament week. And it was kind of cold. So it wasn't the best weather week, but I'm looking forward to going back. That was kind of during a stretch where I wasn't playing very well and was running out of gas a little bit. But I thought the course was great. It held up really nice. I mean, we had to turn a par 4 into a par 3 one day. It was one of those deals where it was really wet. But I thought they did a great job. The tournament director, Greg Conrad, used to be with the Principal Charity Classic, and he does a fantastic job running golf tournaments. So they're in good hands there, and looking forward to going back next year and hopefully get some better weather.
I'm assuming those mid-sized markets that are not going to get a PGA Tour event have to be a blast for you guys in the sense that you guys are the biggest show in town that comes in there. Do they have a little bit of a different vibe where that is going to be sort of, the event, the best golf event that, say, Sioux Falls is going to see that year? Is there a little bit of a different buzz, I guess, when I'm asking when you're at one of those events in a sort of a mid-sized market?
Oh, right. I mean, exactly. That's by far the biggest thing that town's seen in years, if not ever. It's like when we get to Endicott, New York. I mean, the hometown vibe there. I mean, we've been playing there for years. They just love that tournament. Same thing with Flint. We started back playing there this year, and the crowds were huge there. Same with Sioux Falls. They just, like I said, even though the weather's a little shaky, the crowds were humongous. And Jack Nicklaus and Andy North came and did a little 9-hole exhibition. I think Annika Sorenstam and Nancy Lopez were there. It was fantastic, and the crowds were just came out in droves to see him. So, when people like that show up to your little town to play golf and support your community, they'll come out to see you, and we appreciate the people that came out to watch us.
Well, speaking of Laurel, Nebraska, I actually played the golf course this summer at Cedar View as we were driving out to play golf in Valentine at the Prairie Club, and you're right on Route 20. So I have to give your dad some props. I did. It's quirky fun. The greens are really domed. I don't know if that's happened over time, but I would say your dad, for his first go-around designing a golf course, it's a fun 9 holes of golf. It is. It's good. And the par 3s are actually really good. It's tricky. The greens are very domed, and if you get on the wrong side of that, it's a tough up and down, but it's a fun little golf course. I was really impressed thinking that, when we first talked last year, that your dad, without much experience, pushed the dirt and moved it and made it. It was quirky fun. Yeah. So props to your dad for his first design. Very, very solid. I was impressed.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The trees, when I started playing golf when I was a little boy, they were just twigs back then. But, that was, it's really pretty now with the trees all grown up and whatnot. But, yeah, the little greens with the runoffs on the sides, and it was a lot of fun. I always had a great time out there when I was little.
Well, he did a good job for his first and probably only golf course. It's the architecture is held up. It was fun to play. So last couple I got, yeah, it was a blast. It was really fun to see it. Just some hot topics for 2018, and then I've got some stuff coming in 19. So I've got a couple more here if I can get your perspective, and then we'll get you out of here. But wondering on your watching the rise again of Tiger Woods, and I know he's a good friend of yours, but did you ever see this level of play of coming back again and then capping it off with a win at the Tour Championship? Sort of, how do you assess from him going to 1,000 in the world up into the top 20 and what a comeback? I'm assuming you feel the same way of everything he's been through to see him sort of win again and be relative again on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, not only did I not see it, I don't think anybody did, quite honestly. I don't think Tiger saw it. He's, as you know, and everybody knows, and he didn't even know if he'd ever even play again, let alone play the kind of golf he played. So truly amazing, but great to see. I know everybody was cheering for him and rooting for him. I know I was, and having tons of back pain over the last 10 years myself. It's no fun, and that was amazing. It was fun to watch. I thought he was going to win one of those couple majors that he was in contention for when he hit that fairway bunker shot on 10 at Carnoustie. And as he said that was the whole tournament right there. If he pulls it off, he thought he was going to win, and he pulled it off, but then he doubled the next hole. I wish he would have hit a driver on that hole, but anyway. I think he could win another major or two. Will he win 5? That's highly doubtful, but great to see him make a comeback like that. That was awesome.
The Ryder Cup. You've been in a few of them on both sides of the ocean here, and why do you think there is such a barrier to, or why is it so difficult to go over there and get the W? And as a follow-up to that, when you were playing, did they make the golf courses when you went over to Europe? Did the captain have that same influence of making the golf course more advantageous in theory for the European team, or has that been a trend that you've kind of heard about or seen recently where the captain is saying, well, I'm going to do this because it makes this better for my team?
I think it first started in, from what I can remember, well, my last Ryder Cup in 2002, as far as the way that captains set up the course, my last Ryder Cup in 2002, I swear they didn't cut the greens on the weekend. They were so slow on Sunday in the singles, and I watched the replay of it. We couldn't get a putt to the hole. And obviously, they didn't tell us they didn't cut the greens, and they knew they didn't cut the greens. And they made a bunch of putts and got the ball to the hole, and we couldn't adjust and get it to the hole. And I think that was, that's their choice. They can do that. And then this year, it was genius the way Bjorn set up that course, to make the fairways super narrow with a horrendous rough, knowing that they were a more accurate team off the tee than we were. That was just I don't think we could ever beat them on that golf course. I really don't. The way our team was last year, even if we went and played them again the next week, It was just such a fantastic setup for them at that golf course in France. So, how are we going to set up? Where's the next one? Whistling Straits?
Yeah, I mean, wide and open, right?
I mean, you can only make the fairways so wide. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty wide anyway, wide open and no rough. And, I mean, how long can you make it? So can we make it long and wide open? I don't know. But I think we'll have a good chance to win next time around in a couple of years. But it's just they seem to have an advantage in that event for whatever reason. They seem to come together and relax and have more fun. And I think that's the whole thing. They just seem to outputt us virtually every single time. So we'll see what happens next time.
Do you think the captain, knowing that they're going to make this thing narrow, slower greens, accuracy is more of a premium on the European side when it's on their soil, would you start looking at different captains' picks based on how you would know that course is going to be set up going in the future? Then do you have to look at guys who might not be the best on points but fit that style of golf course better?
I would think so. Yeah, I would think that would be a good idea. I mean, if we went back to that course in Paris and it was the same setup, yeah, would you pick somebody that can? Furyk should have jumped in there and then played.
Well, right, yeah.
I mean, if he could have,
right.
As opposed to Phil. I don't think Phil was a very good captain's pick for that track by any stretch, and he wasn't playing very good anyway. So yeah, okay. I need my 4 straightest drivers for that course. Find 4 guys that can hit it on a string. Kevin Kisner kind of comes to mind. So yeah, it might have been a good idea to come up with 4 guys that can hit it as straight as possible. So yeah, that might have been a good idea for sure.
New rules for 2019. We have you can now leave the pin in, which Bryson DeChambeau is doing, and it sounds crazy, but have you thought about this, and are you practicing potentially leaving it in, putting, leaving it out, and then also the drop at the knee now? I mean, is that literally something you have to kind of practice? So if you have to drop, you can do it effectively. Now can you bend your knee how much, right? Then can you aim the ball a little bit better where you want it to drop within the rules? Like, do you literally have to start taking these things into consideration at this point?
I haven't practiced the ball drop yet. I might have to try that today when I go out to the course. And as far as the pin goes, I'm pretty sure there's no way I'll putt with it in. If I'm like on the fringe, I mean, this won't change. If I'm on the fringe and I'm 40 or 50 feet away and I got a, downhiller that's pretty fast and, I leave the pin in anyway, hoping, just in case I get a little rammy with it, hoping the pin will stop it. So if I'm on the green and I got a 40-footer and it's straight downhill, I'll leave the pin in just in case it's going too fast. So hopefully it'll hit the pin and stop it. So that's no different in case I was on the fringe or what I'm on the fringe of the green. So in that situation, I'll probably leave it in. But if I got a 15-footer, there's no way I'm going to leave it in. That'll be weird for me. So, or a 5 or 8, 10-footer or whatever. And some of the other rules, grounding your club in a penalty area. Kurt Byerman slipped up about 10 times calling it a hazard last week. So, I mean, if the announcers slip up calling it a hazard, I'm sure some guys are going to slip up with a few of the rules here or there. I've read them 10 different times, and I'll probably read them again before I go out to Hawaii. Although there's not too many penalty areas over there I got to worry about. But yeah, they're a little awkward, and some of them are a little different. But I'm sure we'll all get used to them pretty quick.
Last one I got here for you, the U.S. Open from 2018. You've played in your fair share, and do you like the way that they're going about setting up U.S. Opens with a wider fairway, but more, the greens are more penal than ever? Or do you miss sort of where driving accuracy, and accuracy is a huge deal, the rough is very penal, rough around the greens, but you could still play it a little bit more? And do you think the guys are complaining too much? I was talking to Tom Kite at a Champions Tour event, and he's like, you should have played them, when the fairways were as narrow as we played them in the 80s and 90s. It was brutal. So what's sort of your take on the whole, where the U.S. Open's going and the guys' reaction to it?
I'm kind of with Kite a little bit. I mean, all the U.S. Opens I played, to me, when I think of a U.S. Open, I think of frustration because I was never the most accurate driver of the ball. And when you're staring at a 25-yard wide fairway, and I hit a good drive for me, and it misses the fairway by 6 inches, and I just grab my sand wedge. I mean, that to me is a U.S. Open. That to me is frustration, and that's why I think I always had a hard time with U.S. Opens. And then when I think of Aaron Hills, you know, what did who won that? Koepka? What did he shoot there? 18 under or something?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's not a U.S. Open. I mean, that had zero atmosphere. Then you go the other way with Shinnecock. You know, that 10th hole, the ball, if you're short, the ball rolls 60 yards down the hill. If you're long, it rolls almost to the 11th tee. The 11th hole, if you miss it left of the green, it rolls 50 yards down the 12th fairway. I don't really like that either. And I love Shinnecock Hills. It's like my second favorite course in the country. So I'm kind of leaning back to answer your question the other way of kind of going back to the tighter fairways, more rough around the greens, not so much runoff area. You know, kind of heavier rough, more premium on driving accuracy, and see what happens.
Well, with Mike Davis stepping down from setting up golf courses, it'll be interesting to see, do they start to go back a little bit of a different direction? So it'll be interesting to see their setups over the next couple of years. So to be seen, I guess. Kelk, thanks so much for your time today. Best of luck in 2019. We'll be watching you out there, and play well all season.
You got it, Jason. Appreciate it. Thank you.